Quantum Mirage. Part 1. Chapter 1, Neon Shadows. In the year 2147, New Nexus stood as humanity's final great bastion, a sprawling megacity that stretched endlessly in every direction. Skyscrapers of glass and steel clawed at the heavens, their surfaces alive with vibrant neon lights that flickered and danced against the perpetual twilight of the city's smog-laden sky. Above, levitating highways crisscrossed in a complex web, humming with the constant flow of hovercrafts, while below, the city descended into a maze of forgotten streets and underground markets, where shadows seemed to hold secrets of their own. Dr. Eleanor Ellie Nash, a quantum physicist at Nexus Corp., was one of the few who navigated this dichotomy with ease. The lab, her sanctuary, was perched high above the chaos, a sterile haven of white and silver filled with the hum of cutting-edge technology. Holographic screens floated around her, displaying streams of data in languages known only to those who lived and breathed quantum mechanics. Here, amidst the clean lines and soft glows, Ellie felt a sense of purpose and control that eluded her in the outside world. She was working late, as usual, her eyes darting between equations and simulations. Her fingers danced over a virtual keyboard, entering commands with practiced precision. The room was filled with the soft, rhythmic beeps of machines processing her instructions, each sound a tiny reassurance that she was one step closer to her goal. Ellie's goal was nothing less than revolutionary, the Quantum Mirage device, a theoretical marvel that could open gateways to parallel universes. Tonight, her progress felt particularly tangible. The simulations were aligning perfectly, each variable falling into place like the pieces of an intricate puzzle. She could almost feel the veil between realities thinning, just within her grasp. Her heart quickened at the thought, the possibilities spinning out before her in a dizzying array of potentialities. Yet, amidst her focus, a shadow loomed, one not of her making. A memory, vivid and painful, surfaced. It was a flashback to a day that had changed everything, the lab accident that had taken her partner, Jonathan, from her. She could still see his face, illuminated by the cold, clinical lights of their old lab, the horror in his eyes as the experiment went awry. The explosion had been instantaneous, merciless. In the aftermath, Ellie had been left with scars both seen and unseen. The Quantum Mirage was her way to make amends, to find a universe where Jonathan still lived, to undo her greatest regret. Her reverie was broken by the sharp chime of an incoming message. The holographic display blinked, and the stern visage of Victor Hawk, CEO of Nexus Corp., materialized before her. Victor was a man of contradictions, charming yet ruthless, visionary yet blind to the human cost of his ambitions. His silver hair and piercing blue eyes gave him an almost regal appearance, but Ellie knew better than to be swayed by his charisma.
Ellie.
He began, his voice, smooth but laced with an undercurrent of impatience.
How is our project progressing?
Ellie straightened, a professional mask slipping over her features.
We're making significant strides, Victor. The Quantum Mirage device is nearing operational status. Preliminary tests show promising stability.
Victor's eyes narrowed slightly, a predatory gleam in their depths.
Excellent. But remember, we need more than stability. We need results. The board is getting restless, and our investors are hungry for breakthroughs.
Ellie nodded, feeling the familiar weight of expectation settle on her shoulders.
I understand. But we must proceed with caution. The implications of this technology.
Victor cut her off, his tone sharp.
Implications be damned, Ellie. We are on the brink of a new era. Nexus Corp must lead, not follow. I trust you'll prioritize accordingly.
With that, the hologram flickered and vanished, leaving Ellie alone with her thoughts and the low hum of the lab. She sighed, the weight of her dual burdens pressing down on her, her commitment to her research, and the ever-present threat of Victor's ambitions overshadowing her work. As she turned back to her console, her resolve hardened. She would see this project through, but on her terms. She owed it to Jonathan, to herself, and to the countless lives that could be affected by the Quantum Mirage. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Ellie was no stranger to walking in the shadows. The city below, with its secrets and whispers, seemed to echo her silent vow. And so, under the neon-lit canopy of New Nexus, amidst the hum of technology and the specter of loss, Dr. Eleanor Nash prepared to breach the boundaries of reality itself, unaware that her greatest challenges, and revelations, were yet to come. Chapter 2, Power Plays. Victor Hawk strode into the Nexus Corp boardroom with an air of supreme confidence. The room itself was a marvel of modern design, walls of glass and steel that seemed to pulse with the energy of the city outside, a massive holographic table displaying a rotating globe, pinpointing Nexus Corp's influence across continents. High above, a ceiling of transparent screens projected data streams and market analytics in real time, casting a digital glow over the assembled executives. Victor was in his element. Tall, impeccably dressed in a custom-tailored suit, he exuded a magnetic charisma that drew the eyes of everyone in the room. His hair, silver at the temples, added to his aura of wisdom and authority. Yet, beneath the charming exterior lay a mind as sharp and dangerous as any weapon forged in New Nexus.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Victor began, his voice smooth and commanding.
we stand on the precipice of a new era.
He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Around the table, the executives leaned forward, captivated. They were used to Victor's grand speeches, but today felt different, charged with a promise of something monumental.
As you know,
He continued.
our research and development team, led by the brilliant Dr. Eleanor Nash, has made unprecedented strides in quantum technology. This, my friends, is our gateway to the future.
In a seamless motion, Victor gestured to the holographic table, and the globe morphed into a complex array of quantum diagrams and shimmering blueprints of the quantum Mirage device. The room filled with a hushed awe as the executives took in the intricate designs. At that moment, Ellie entered the boardroom, clutching her tablet close to her chest. She felt a wave of unease wash over her. Victor's smooth words echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the ethical turmoil that had kept her awake at night. She knew she had to present her findings, but the creeping sensation that she was walking into a trap gnawed at her.
Ah, Dr. Nash.
Victor said, his smile as polished as his reputation.
Perfect timing. We were just discussing your incredible work.
Ellie forced a smile and took her seat, her mind racing. Victor's charm was as dangerous as any weapon. She knew that all too well from her years working under his mentorship. She cleared her throat, trying to steady her nerves.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk.
Ellie began, her voice firm but tinged with tension.
Our recent breakthrough with the quantum Mirage device has indeed opened up new possibilities. However, we must proceed with caution. The implications of accessing parallel universes are profound and not without significant risks.
Victor's eyes narrowed ever so slightly, a predator sensing a challenge.
Of course, Dr. Nash. But imagine the possibilities. Alternate realities where resources are abundant, diseases are eradicated, wars are prevented. Nexus Corp could guide humanity to a golden age.
Ellie's heart pounded. This was the moment she had dreaded.
And what if
She countered.
those alternate realities are not as idyllic as we hope? What if we unleash something we cannot control? We have a responsibility to ensure that our actions do not cause irreparable harm.
The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut. Victor held Ellie's gaze, his smile fading into something colder.
Responsibility, Dr. Nash, is precisely why Nexus Corp exists. To lead, to innovate, to control our destiny.
Ellie felt the weight of his words. Control. That was the crux of it. Victor's vision of the future hinged on power and domination, whereas her own was rooted in caution and ethical consideration. She knew she had to make her stand, no matter the cost.
Mr. Hawk,
She said, choosing her words carefully.
our destiny should be guided by wisdom, not ambition. We must consider the ethical implications of our work and prioritize safety above all.
Victor's smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes.
And that, Dr. Nash, is why you are leading this project. To ensure that we achieve greatness responsibly. I trust you will navigate these challenges with the brilliance you have always shown.
The meeting continued, but Ellie's mind was elsewhere. She had seen the flicker of menace behind Victor's charm, and it left her uneasy. As the executives discussed potential applications and market strategies, Ellie felt a growing resolve. She would not allow her research to be twisted into a tool of control and exploitation. After the meeting, Victor approached her, his demeanor once again warm and affable.
Ellie, a word?
She nodded, steeling herself for the conversation she knew was coming. They walked to a corner of the room, away from prying ears.
I sense your apprehension.
Victor said softly, his tone almost fatherly.
I value your perspective, truly. But you must understand, the world is changing rapidly. We cannot afford to be left behind.
Ellie met his gaze, her eyes unwavering.
I understand the need for progress, Victor. But not at the cost of our humanity.
Victor's expression hardened momentarily, then softened.
You're a remarkable scientist, Ellie. Your concerns are noted. But remember, sometimes risks must be taken for the greater good.
With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Ellie standing alone, her thoughts swirling. She knew the battle lines were drawn, and the stakes were higher than ever. She had to protect her research and ensure it wasn't used to usher in an era of unchecked power. As she left the boardroom, she resolved to dig deeper into Victor's plans, knowing that the true test of her resolve was only just beginning. Chapter 3: The Mirage Unveiled. Ellie Nash adjusted the holographic interface, her fingers moving with practiced precision as she calibrated the final settings on the quantum Mirage device. The lab was bathed in the cool glow of augmented reality displays, their soft blue light casting ethereal shadows on the walls. She took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension swell within her. Today could be the day she finally breached the veil between realities. She glanced at the photograph pinned to the corner of her workstation. It showed her and Sam, her partner, smiling on a rare day off, a reminder of what she had lost and what she was desperately seeking. The pain of Sam's absence was a constant ache, but it also fueled her drive, her need to find a reality where things had turned out differently.
Initializing quantum resonance.
Ellie murmured, her voice breaking the silence of the lab. The device hummed to life, a low, throbbing sound that reverberated through the room. She watched as the holographic interface displayed complex equations and data streams, the culmination of years of research and sleepless nights. The first phase was crucial. Ellie had to ensure the device was stable before attempting any significant quantum manipulations. She monitored the energy fluxes carefully, her eyes darting between screens. The hum intensified, the device now glowing with an inner light, a visual manifestation of the immense power it harnessed.
Resonance achieved.
She whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. This was it. She was on the brink of something extraordinary. Ellie activated the next sequence, her fingers dancing over the holographic controls. The room seemed to vibrate, the air thickening with a palpable tension. She could almost feel the boundaries of reality stretching, bending to the will of her creation. The device emitted a series of beeps, each one a note in an otherworldly symphony. But as the portal grew clearer, a sense of unease crept over her. The equations on her display flickered erratically, warning indicators flashing. The energy levels were spiking beyond predicted ranges. Ellie's fingers flew over the controls, attempting to stabilize the anomaly.
Come on, come on.
She muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. The portal began to waver, its edges fraying like a torn fabric. Panic gnawed at her insides. She had to regain control. Suddenly, the lab was filled with a high-pitched whine, the sound growing in intensity until it was almost unbearable. Ellie's heart raced. She slammed her hand on the emergency shutdown button, hoping to contain the situation before it spiraled out of control. The portal collapsed with a blinding flash, the shockwave knocking Ellie off her feet. She landed hard, the wind knocked out of her. The lab plunged into darkness, the only sound her ragged breathing. Ellie lay still for a moment, her mind reeling from what had just transpired. Slowly, she pushed herself up, her muscles protesting. The emergency lights flickered on, casting a dim, eerie glow. She surveyed the damage, scattered papers, overturned equipment, and the smoking remains of her console. The quantum Mirage device lay silent, its power drained. Ellie staggered to her feet, her legs shaky. She approached the device, her heart sinking as she saw the extent of the damage. This was a setback, but it wasn't the end. She could rebuild, refine the parameters, and try again. She had to. As she started to clean up, a small sound caught her attention. A faint, almost imperceptible buzz. She frowned, scanning the room. Her eyes landed on a corner where a small, glowing ember pulsed faintly. It was a fragment of the portal, a piece of the other reality that had somehow survived and remained trapped in this reality with the abrupt collapse of the portal. Ellie's breath hitched. She knelt beside it, reaching out with trembling fingers. The ember flickered in response, a living connection to another world. Her mind raced with possibilities. This fragment could hold the key to future experiments and aid the reopening of the portal. She knew its natural course will be to get pulled back to its own world when the portal reopens. She carefully contained the fragment in a specialized chamber, her mind already formulating new strategies and calculations. The thrill of discovery coursed through her veins, mingling with the lingering fear. She was close, so close, to unlocking the mysteries of the quantum realm. But the dangers were real, and she knew she couldn't do this alone. She would need help, allies she could trust. And she had to be wary of Victor. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching, waiting for the right moment to seize control of her work. Ellie stood in the dim light of her lab, cradling the chamber that held the ember of another reality. Determination hardened her features. She would succeed, not just for herself, but for the memory of Sam and the promise of what lay beyond the veil. The quantum mirage was more than a scientific breakthrough, it was a beacon of hope, and she would see it through, no matter the cost. Chapter 4, Secrets in the Shadows. The city of New Nexus never slept. Its neon veins pulsed with ceaseless energy, a frenetic heartbeat that echoed through the canyons of steel and glass. Somewhere amidst the flickering lights and hum of technology, Dr. Eleanor Ellie Nash sat alone in her apartment, her mind racing faster than the traffic streams outside her window. The breakthrough with the quantum Mirage device had opened a door to possibilities she had only dreamed of. But now, an unsettling shadow loomed over her discovery. Victor Hawk's ambitions threatened to turn her scientific marvel into a weapon of control. Ellie's apartment was a testament to her dual life. Sleek, modern furnishings juxtaposed with stacks of old physics textbooks and personal mementos. Her partner's photograph sat on her desk, a silent reminder of her personal mission. Tonight, as she booted up her encrypted terminal, she felt the weight of the city's neon gaze pressing down on her shoulders. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, bypassing Nexus Corp's firewall with a practiced ease. She had learned the art of digital subterfuge during late nights spent hacking for fun, but now it was a matter of survival. The screen before her filled with lines of code and security protocols. She broke through the final barrier, entering the heart of the corporation's darkest secrets. Her heart pounded as she navigated through a labyrinth of classified files. Each folder held potential revelations and dangers. She opened a file labeled Project Quantum Horizon, and her breath caught in her throat. Detailed schematics of her device, but modified in ways she had never intended. Energy matrices recalibrated for military use, simulations of potential applications ranging from espionage to full-scale warfare. The enormity of what she was seeing was overwhelming. Victor wasn't just interested in alternate realities, he wanted to exploit them, to bend them to his will. Ellie's stomach churned at the thought of the power he could wield. She scrolled further, uncovering emails and meeting transcripts that revealed his plans to present the modified device to the Nexus Corp board for immediate deployment. A soft chime interrupted her concentration. A new email from Victor himself appeared in her inbox, marked urgent. She hesitated, then opened it. "Ellie, I trust you're making progress. I'd like to see a full report by tomorrow morning. Your cooperation is essential for the future of Nexus Corp and humanity. V." Ellie stared at the screen, anger and fear intertwining. Victor's words were a thinly veiled threat. He knew she was close to something big, and he wouldn't hesitate to manipulate her into compliance. She needed an ally, someone she could trust. Her mind raced to Dr. Lucas Thorne, a senior researcher she had worked with on several projects. Dr. Thorne was known for his integrity and had expressed doubts about Victor's leadership in private conversations. If anyone could help her navigate this storm, it was him. Ellie secured the files she had downloaded and encrypted them on a data pad. She grabbed her coat and the data pad, casting a final glance at her partner's photo.
"I'll fix this,"
she whispered, as if seeking their silent approval. Chapter 5, Double Agent. Ellie's heart pounded in her chest as she navigated the labyrinthine corridors of Nexus Corp's research facility. The sterile, white walls seemed to close in on her, each turn leading her deeper into a maze of secrets and lies. The hum of machinery and the occasional distant conversation were her only companions, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her mind racing with the implications of what she had uncovered. She reached her lab and sealed the door behind her, leaning against it for a moment to catch her breath. The room was dimly lit, illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays and the steady pulse of the quantum Mirage device on her central workbench. Her fingers flew across the touchpad, initiating security protocols to ensure their conversation would be private. She had to trust someone, and she hoped she had chosen wisely. A soft chime signaled the arrival of her colleague, Dr. Lucas Thorne.
"Ellie, you sounded urgent."
Lucas said, closing the door behind him.
"What's going on?"
Ellie took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she handed him a data pad.
"I found something, Lucas. Something big. Victor's plans, they're far worse than we imagined."
Lucas scanned the data pad, his expression growing increasingly grim.
"He wants to weaponize the quantum Mirage device. If he succeeds, he could control not just our reality, but potentially alter or destroy others."
Ellie nodded, her voice barely above a whisper.
"We have to stop him. But we can't do it alone."
Lucas looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of concern and determination.
"I'm with you, Ellie. Whatever it takes."
They spent the next few hours devising a plan to sabotage Victor's test, their whispered conversations punctuated by the soft hum of the lab's equipment. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified by their heightened senses. As they worked, Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, but she pushed the thought aside. They had no time for paranoia, the stakes were too high. Their plan hinged on accessing a restricted section of the facility where Victor kept the control systems for the quantum Mirage device. Ellie's heart raced as she and Lucas approached the security checkpoint. Lucas produced a forged access card, the product of weeks of careful preparation. The guard scanned it, and for a tense moment, Ellie held her breath. The scanner beeped, and the gate slid open. They were in. Navigating the restricted section was a nerve-wracking ordeal. The halls were eerily silent, the air thick with the scent of ozone and antiseptic. Ellie's pulse quickened with each step, her mind racing with the implications of what they were about to do. They reached the control room, a high-tech nerve center bristling with displays and interfaces. Lucas quickly got to work, his fingers dancing over the controls. Ellie stood guard, her eyes darting nervously to the door. Every second felt like an eternity, the weight of their actions pressing down on her.
"Almost there."
Lucas muttered, his voice tight with concentration. Just as he was about to finish, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Ellie's heart stopped as Victor Hawk strode into the room, flanked by 2 security officers. His eyes were cold, calculating, and a cruel smile played at the corners of his lips.
Well, what do we have here?
Victor said, his voice dripping with mockery.
Dr. Nash, I must say I'm disappointed. I expected better from you.
Ellie's mind raced. How had he found out? Her eyes darted to Lucas, and the truth hit her like a physical blow. His posture, the way he avoided her gaze, it all made sense now.
"You."
she whispered, betrayal lacing her words.
You set me up.
Lucas looked away, guilt written across his features.
I'm sorry, Ellie. He left me no choice.
Victor's smile widened.
Indeed. Loyalty is such a fickle thing, isn't it?
But don't worry, Dr. Nash, your contributions won't be in vain. In fact, they'll help usher in a new era.
Ellie's mind raced, desperation clawing at her. She had to act, and quickly. Her eyes flicked to the control panel, and a plan formed. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling, and lunged for the emergency shutdown button. Time seemed to slow as she pressed it, a blaring alarm filling the room. Victor's expression shifted from smug satisfaction to rage, and he barked orders at his guards.
Get her!
Ellie was grabbed roughly by the guards, her arms wrenched behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulders, but she didn't care. The shutdown sequence had begun, and the device was powering down. Victor stepped closer, his face twisted with anger.
You've just made a very big mistake, Dr. Nash. You'll pay for this.
Ellie met his gaze, defiance burning in her eyes.
Better to die doing what's right than to live as a coward.
Victor's eyes narrowed, and he motioned to the guards.
Take her to the holding cells. I'll deal with her later.
As Ellie was dragged away, she cast one last glance at Lucas. His face was a mask of regret, but it was too late. The damage was done. Ellie sat alone in the cold, dimly lit cell. Her mind racing. She had bought some time, 24 hours precisely. But it wasn't enough. She needed a new plan, and fast. The fate of countless realities depended on her. In the darkness, a spark of determination ignited. She wasn't beaten yet. She would find a way to stop Victor, no matter the cost. The fight was far from over.